Hallo, herzlich willkommen zurück zu unserem kleinen Gamescom Studio. Neben mir sitzt der Lead Designer von Dishonored 2, Death of the Outsider, Dinga Bakaba. I'm sorry. Hey. So you're a lead designer, so you're the right person for me to talk about the new DLC, which will be standalone, which is quite unique. I mean, it's a DLC, but it's also standalone. You can buy it like
actually,
a regular game.
You could even say that it's actually not a DLC. So to tell you a bit more about that and why it ended up that way, so we wanted to tell this new story in the Dishonored world, like focus on this new character Billy, and the thing is that we could have made a DLC and cut it into several parts and release it fast, and like 3 months after the release of the game, there is another game, there is new content. But instead, we choose to say, hey, what if we take the middle ground between waiting for 3 more or 4 more years until we make a full sequel and rushing something out of the door right after the beginning of the game. So right after shipping the game. So in the end, it ended up like that. We took 1 year to make it, so it feels like a full-fledged game. It's, I think, 12 hours long if you go playing normally. If you go into doing all the side quests, it's more than that. So it's quite interesting, and I think it's a format. But personally, I was one of the persons who suggested it, and the reason why was that I really liked what happened with Wolfenstein, The Old Blood, which is like our friends at Machine Games did. I think it was a good format, not too long after the game was out, allows you to visit some other themes and other areas of the world, and etc. I know that Uncharted is doing something like that. We've seen, the very recent Expandalone. Like some people are saying Expandalone now, by the way. So
is it like a way for a developer to get stuff out of his head? You mean you collect so many ideas during development process, and then you can finally make it into like a smaller version. So it's no Dishonored Light. It's more.
No, it's actually it's not surprisingly, because in the end you know more about your game 1 year after you're done, obviously. Like during the development you're figuring a lot of things out, and then when you're finished you know how to make Dishonored gameplay, you know how to make good Dishonored content, you see what I mean? So you can go and apply that directly, and then you also have the space to experiment, and that's something we really wanted to do, like experiment with some of the gameplay systems, some of the, for instance, Billy's powers, the way the power economy works, etc. We revamped a lot of things because because of in a short development cycle like that, you are not making new tech, for instance. You are not like, there's a lot of things that you have figured out, and you can go straight to what's important to you as a developer, which for us was like experimenting with all this new stuff and tell this new story. And I think also what's interesting for the players, because they get more refined content, and
of course you can reuse the city Kanaka, which is already developed, and there it gives you more time to spend on characters and story development, new features. And you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and by the way, even about Karnaka, so yeah, the art style, the whole thing about Karnaka is already done, but that's the thing. You have assets. We know how the buildings look. We know what furnitures look like in the world, etc. So we can build all new spaces in this city. So that's the cool thing. I think there is one location that we revisit from Dishonored 2, all the rest is new. It's actually brand new. So it's really cool to explore different parts of the city, and so this time we are focusing more on the underworld of Karnaka, like the underground. Billy Lurk is an assassin. She's a kill for hire. She's going to try to find her mentor Daud that we've seen in the past of the series. He was the guy who killed the Empress Jessamine, and we played as him in the DLCs from Dishonored 1. And she's going to try to find her mentor, and then when she does, he's in this crazy quest of actually killing the outsider, which is like the divinity figure in the world. So it starts off as a more personal story, I would say, than Dishonored 2, and ends up like being almost metaphysical because we're going to the center of the universe almost.
Isn't that some kind of spoiler? Death of the outside. I mean, it says it right there in the title.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Like we wanted to be quite frank about. Yeah. Question mark.
Question mark.
Question mark. Well, but we wanted that out of the way. We wanted to say this is what it's about now. Wow. Now how? Yeah. Why? Really? Those are questions that the player will have to figure out for themselves.
You have talked about that this game would be great for new players, like an introduction into the series. Why would that be?
Well, I think, first of all, clearly there's two levels of enjoying the game. And if we're talking about the story and everything, clearly it's cool to have context, even if it's a self-contained story that I think is satisfying by itself. But clearly there is another level of understanding if you know the whole cycle. Like, if you played Witcher 3, for instance, a lot of people didn't play
Witcher 2 or 1,
yeah, 2 or 1, and they enjoyed thoroughly Witcher 3 by itself. But if you knew about everything that happened before with Geralt and you know the books and everything, it gives you another understanding. So I think it's and I'm seeing Siri pass down in cosplay, by the way. But anyway, as I'm talking about Witcher.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. She is.
But no, I mean the point here is, in terms of enjoying the gameplay of the game, it will be very welcoming for new players, and the reason is that we are not building. We've basically rethought most of the systems. It's not about if you knew. Usually in DLCs it's like that. If you know the main game, then you will apply what you know and repeat the formula in the content, which is cool in its own regard. But here, it's all fresh powers. The way you acquire powers is different. For instance, in the Dishonored series, usually the way it works is that you find runes in the world and you use them to buy powers as some kind of currency, and then you use these same runes to upgrade them, and you stack upgrades on top of one another. And this time, from the start, or very early in the game, you get all the 3 main powers for Billy, which is really cool because for a number of reasons. First, it's very liberating. You know that you have all the abilities, and you know that, and it's more about you experimenting with them, trying to find interesting uses for them or combinations. We were able to think of the powers with more like synergy between them, for instance, and the level design was also thought knowing that you had those abilities and which one you had, and so that allowed us to do some more challenging or more unique areas and things like that. So, like, there's a lot of details. Like, we're going into a lot of details, but in general, we built our systems so that it's a bit. The game is not easier, but I think it's more welcoming for experimentation. Right? Yeah. Like, it's not like the game is still like it's a challenging game. You like one guard, you will probably rip his head off easily. 3 guards, you're starting to think about it. 10 guards, man, run, just run. So it's kind of a challenging game, even if you're powerful. So it's something interesting to work with, by the way. But I think, like, for example, in Dishonored 2 and Dishonored 1, by the way, your powers were fueled by mana, and you found potions, and you had to consume that in order to use your powers. These times, Billy's artifacts that gives her powers are directly connected to the void energy, and basically it means that she has an endless supply of energy, so there is no resource management. So basically, you're really free to experiment, and you don't have to ask yourself, I could do this really cool combination to kill that guy, and that will be probably very fun, but it's not optimal in terms of resource management. And so it was interesting, but this time we prefer to focus on a more, I have all these tools, how will I be able to use them strategically and make mistakes maybe, and so it's, I think, very liberating for the player to play with the powers. Another aspect of this idea of pushing players to experiment is the fact that now we upgrade. Now for the power upgrades works by finding bone charms that are in effect more like traits that you can equip and unequip, which is really cool because it's not about adding upgrades to an existing power. It's more about twisting the way they work. Like for instance, we have the displace power that is Billy's main mobility ability. It allows you to basically like place a marker in the world and
jump to it, right?
And then jump to it. But it's you don't have to do it on the spot. You can actually place the marker, do something, and then move to the marker. So it can be used a bit like Blink, like to move forward or upward, like Blink. But you can also use it to set traps. You know, like I will put my marker here, and then aggro, provoke those guards and run here. And when they pass the marker, teleport behind them and slit their throat, for instance. You can use it for stealth by placing, I don't know, placing the marker on a balcony and then go down in the street and try to sneak. And if you see the guard might have noticed you, recall back to the marker. So it's a really fun tool, I think, very strategic.
The gamer can develop its own combos if you like.
With it, exactly.
And just give him the tools and he can do whatever you like.
Exactly. And the way we've been thinking upgrades is also, maybe you want this bone charm, you want to equip this bone charm that allows you to be invisible for 3 seconds after you've displaced, but in exchange, the range is quite reduced. So it might be useful for this situation, but not that situation, and having the ability to like swap these upgrades out on the fly is very interesting, strategically speaking.
When you develop new content for the whole universe, is there someone who's like a supervisor of the idea of Dishonored, what it's all about, what is possible, what's not possible, or do you just work it out as a team?
Yeah,
what should fit, you know, in the game, not only visually. I mean, you couldn't just, I don't know, you couldn't just place screens, LCD screens or whatever, or holograms into the game. It wouldn't quite feel right.
Track or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a team effort, clearly. Like, the world is really a team effort. There's, of course, the narrative team and there's the creative leads like Harvey, Christoph, who is here also at Gamescom, and me and people like that. And there's the art director also, and there's the narrative team. So it's more like we built this world together. So there is a good sense at the office of what fits and what doesn't. And every time we propose something, it's actually more about, let's try to propose something crazy. We probably know that it doesn't fit, but we propose something crazy, and then we work together to shape it in a way that's proper for the world. I mean, this kind of process allows us to not, because what you don't want to do is have the rules of your world so figured out that everything is predictable afterward. So you still want to explore the limits of what you can do, and maybe we have never visited this aspect of the world or that aspect of the world, and we can build. So I'd say it's a team effort, and the artists and narrative team and level designers and the architects, etc. It's a common vision, and of course there has to be someone who says yeah or no in the end, but that's not the point. The point is we try to be a team where everyone has input. Like, one of my favorite Dishonored 2 gameplay features, like powers, like it's called Domino. It didn't come from my team, from the game design team. It actually came from Johan Guillou, our tech art director. So it's really cool that was a great idea, and we took it and then we made it fun and work, etc.
We made it work.
Yeah. So we try to be a team like that, and not, corner people in something like you just have to, you just have one task and we don't care about what you think. I don't think that's how you make good games, to be honest.
Like a formula, like a machine. So will this DLC offer a conclusion to the story in some kind? I mean, it sounds like it as you talk about it.
Yeah, so I think so. there is so if you want me to go a little bit in the
If you want to, I mean, of course you can't spoil
I'd be
anything.
happy to it. No, I'd be happy to explain.
Okay.
Basically, we've started two main stories with the Dishonored games. So there's the main story, that's the story of the Caldwin family, like the Empress Jessamine was assassinating, and that her bodyguard and lover was, blamed for the murder, and he had this revenge quest, and he also wanted to save his daughter, Emily Caldwin, who ended up in Dishonored 2 being the Empress and one of the playable characters. So there's the story of this family and the throne of Dunwall, and so there's this story. And then there is a parallel story that started with the DLC of Dishonored 1, that is the story of the assassin of the Empress, and he's called Dowd. This story is more, as I said earlier, about the underground, like the mercenaries and criminals and thieves. So we gave a conclusion to the Caldwin arc kind of in Dishonored 2, because that's where the story of Corvo and Emily ends. We have, and this DLC is not about them. That's why we say that it's quite welcoming, like, from people who don't know about all this lore. It's really not about them. But we left the story of Dowd and her lieutenant and his lieutenant Billy Lurk kind of open. But we see some of Billy Lurk in Dishonored 2, and then and then you could see her redemption arc resolved the same way Dowd's redemption arc resolved in the DLC. But we are not playing as her, and now we are playing her in a completely different context. But that allowed us to close Dowd's arc and this other thread of the Dishonored universe. So there is closure for that, for her and Dowd. But the kind of it's not a surprise, again, it's in the title, but the kind of twist is that it's not from the low streets of Karnaca. We're also going to end another story, which is the story of the outsider, and he is this godly figure that gives people power in the universe. Like, he chooses someone that has been wronged, and he gives him or her powers, very great amount of power, and expect them to abuse those powers. But he's pleasantly surprised if they don't. And that's the game he's been playing for centuries with various people. And he has a reason for that, and in Dishonored we start to touch about why he plays that strange and maybe sick games. And so he has a reason, but see, that's interesting. We could have left the outsider just be a Deus ex machina, like kind of an excuse for having powers.
For everything.
That would be the easy.
Deliver.
He will just stay mysterious until the end of the series. Or whatever.
It sounds like an interesting character to explore. That's such a game.
Yeah, and I think that's I think what and that's something that Harvey really wanted to do. And it's not just leave him as a MacGuffin in the narration and really make him a character. It started with Dishonored 2. A bit more, and with this we are actually going to resolve his arc, his story arc, and so for those who are not really familiar with the Dishonored universe, outsider is a godly figure in the sense that he's a godly figure, but he's not the only god that ever existed. There was others before him. And we get to see a glimpse of that in this game. So there were other gods before him, and Delilah in Dishonored 2 is trying to take his place. To be fair, that's her whole goal. She wants to be rule the universe. So it's basically there will always be a force, and maybe there are several ones at a period in history, and so. The fact that we end his story doesn't necessarily mean that the world ends with him, but clearly I would say we are closing a chapter of the Dishonored world with this. And
it will be a game changer in some way, I guess. So it sounds like it's going to be way more supernatural than the two games before.
Yeah, it's a deep. I mean, for the whole game, we are following strange cults, who are like worshippers of the outsider. So it starts more with the occult, like who is this sect, and they are connected to this gang, and there is like kind of an investigation about that. So it starts in the streets, and it ends up full-on supernatural for sure.
So it sounds like you got that whole universe already, you know, planned and written down and everything. Are you gonna? Do you have plans to expand on it? Maybe I guess there's already a comic or anything.
Yes,
like there's a comic.
There is a comic. There is
a
novel. Yeah.
So are you going to expand even more?
Well, I mean, I think. Of course, I cannot talk about plans like that too specifically.
You can just spit it out.
No one
will hear it.
Yeah, some will, but
some will always. Yeah.
And but the thing is that no, it's a world that we really care about. We really like it. We think that it has a lot of opportunities to explore different things.
I mean, it has a really unique visual style. It could work perfectly for a movie or a series or just the whole world.
Yeah.
That's,
So I'd be, I'd be curious also to see where it goes. But in any case, at Arcane we're very passionate about what we do. So of course we love this world. We sometimes would like to see a twist or anything, and it's good that it's not a situation where we have to do the same thing over and over and over for 20 years. We can, as you're seeing, we are killing this figure in this game, which is like a lot of people were very surprised about it. Like, wait a minute, but
could be a great risk for the whole series. Yeah, you never know.
But I think that's how we like to do. We like to challenge ourselves and in a way challenge the players and challenge their expectations and try new things and basically that's how we really like to work. We really like to surprise and beat for the moment-to-moment gameplay and for like, oh, actually this is what we are doing.
And I think you deserve a reward for all that.
Oh.
So I really hope. No, I ain't got a reward. I got nothing. I got nothing on me.
Can I take this cute guy?
You can take the bean or a cap or whatever, but no. So it sounds to me like you're really passionate about your game and the development process. So I really hope, I wish you well, I hope it works well, I hope the reception is good, the critics are good and everything. I will play it and I thank you for your time.
Ja, thanks to you for having us.
Ja, wir sehen es am Ende, wir hatten leider nur einen kleinen Trailer, deswegen lief der die ganze Zeit in Endlosschleife. Ihr könnt ihn euch aber natürlich auch nochmal angucken, wenn ihr unbedingt wollt. Ihr könnt aber auch warten, bis es dann bei uns, und das wird es wohl geben, ein bisschen mehr zum Spiel gibt, denn wir werden es natürlich spielen. Thank you, Dingo, for coming.
Thanks
and have a nice Gamescom.
Yeah, thanks, same to you.
Und euch jetzt viel Spaß mit dem folgenden Programm. Ich gucke mal nach, steht nicht, weiß nicht, was jetzt kommt, aber es wird sicher toll. E-Sport. Gedöns. Steht das da wirklich? Steht da E-Sport Gedöns? Na gut, viel Spaß damit. Wir haben Chicken Dinner, wir dürfen uns ab jetzt alles erlauben. Riot.